listening to PetLifeRadio.com.
The Pet Doctor is brought to you by Dog.com. For everything and anything dog, shop Dog.com today for all the top brands: Greenies, Frontline, Kong, Nylabone, Royal Canin, and more. Shop at Dog.com and use the promo code SADDOC, SADDOC, and get $15 off your order of $75 or more.
Is your pet stressed out? Does your pet need annual vaccines? Which pet is best for a child? Would you know if your dog was in pain? Pet Life Radio presents The Pet Doctor, where you'll learn everything about keeping your pet healthy and happy. From pet care, pet meds and grooming, to pet food, pet insurance, and dental care, this is the place to find out everything there is to know about pet wellness. Whether you have a dog, cat, reptile, or rabbit, you'll find answers for your pets straight from the vets, because it's your pet. Health matters. Please welcome your Pet Doctor host, veterinary media consultant and veterinarian, Dr. Bernadine Cruz.
How do you know when a seahorse is sick? How do you get it to a veterinarian? How do you find a veterinarian that has the expertise to diagnose and treat aquatic animals? These are but some of the questions that cause Aquarius' head to swim. When the California Academy of Sciences Steinhart Aquarium recently underwent a major reconstructive campaign, they turned to Dr. Freeland Dunker to help ensure that the thousands of species of land and underwater creatures were healthy and happy. So how do you know if a seahorse is happy? Does it gallop around its tank with bubbles blowing through its gills? Dr. Freeland Dunker will tell us these answers and give us a behind-the-scene glimpse at a day in the life of a veterinarian at a world-class entertaining and educational landmark, the California Academy of Sciences Steinhart Aquarium. We'll be right back.
Please have a seat in the waiting room. The doctor will be with you shortly, right after these messages.
There's a movement afoot. ShoeBuy.com. Join the millions of people who shop ShoeBuy.com's over 400 brands and 500,000 products. Order now and get free shipping and free return shipping. ShoeBuy.com, the world's greatest shoe store.
Walk your dog in style and comfort. Enter the code DOCTOR, D-O-C-T-O-R, at checkout and get a 10% discount plus free shipping at ShoeBuy.com.
Love your pets but wish their medications were a lot less expensive? They are at 1-800-PET-MEDS. You'll not only save on flea and heartworm medications, but on prescriptions for arthritis, incontinence, thyroid, and more. And you get fast service, free shipping, and a 100% satisfaction guarantee. Plus, our licensed pharmacists ensure accuracy, monitor drug interaction, and more. See why over 5 million people have trusted their pet's health to 1-800-PET-MEDS, America's largest pet pharmacy. Call now or order online.
Go to petmeds.com/doctor, D-O-C-T-O-R, to get 10% off any order and free shipping on orders of $39 or more at petmeds.com.
FTD's network of over 40,000 florists around the world have been creating beautiful handcrafted arrangements for 100 years. Each arrangement is delivered the same day and backed by FTD's 7-day satisfaction guarantee. For a century, people have trusted their most important occasions to the flower experts at FTD.
Since Pet Life Radio is all about puppy dogs and flowers, our listeners, that's you, can get a 20% discount on your order. Just go to fleurop.com and use the code DOCTOR20 at checkout. FLEUROP.com, code word DOCTOR and the number 20.
Aquariums and pond keeping are among the most popular of all hobbies in the United States and throughout the world. In fact, fish are probably the most numerous pet in people's homes and in their businesses. In Aquarium Mania, we'll learn more about the secret and not so secret life of fish and other inhabitants, the basics of good aquarium keeping, the complexities of the aquarium industry, and the science and art that surround this fascinating hobby. I'm your host, Roy Anong, and I'd like to thank you for joining us. Aquarium Mania.
Every week on demand, only on PetLifeRadio.com. Let's Talk Pets on PetLifeRadio.com. Welcome back to the Pet Doctor on Pet Life Radio with Dr. Bernadine Cruz. The doctor is in, and we'll see you now.
Dr. Duncan, you have the job that most little veterinarians will hope to grow up and have. My goodness, it's spectacular. And oh, by the way, you're a classmate of mine. How did you get to where you are now?
Well, I do have to let you know that I am very fortunate and very excited about having this position here. As you know, we've been out of school for close to 30 years now.
Shh, don't tell anybody.
And my evolution of, evolving or evolution of becoming an aquatic animal veterinarian, has taken many turns. And again, when we first graduated from school, I started out as a mixed animal practitioner with the majority of my time being spent taking care of horses and cattle. And that evolved to an actual equine surgical practice where I was dealing with surgical cases on horses.
Horses to seahorses. Okay, I see the relationship.
Yeah, there you go. That's right. A little bit of anatomy, a little bit different, but it's all, as I'll go through, believe it or not, there are some similarities. And so it's a type of thing where my interest in exotics or different species, I've always had an interest in comparative anatomy and physiology, and it evolved into developing more interest in exotics, and I went on to further education as an intern at Riverbank Zoo in South Carolina, and I then acquired a job at the San Francisco Zoo, and I developed my skills in various animal species. My aquatic experience was gained at the Academy of Sciences Steinhart when they had dolphins and seals that I took care of in the early 90s. And so I basically ended up with two jobs. One, working at the San Francisco Zoo as head veterinarian, which was a full-time job, and then I was consulting veterinarian here at the California Academy of Sciences. And basically when, as you mentioned, when the Academy went through its major renovations, increased the size of its collection and the animal diversity, I took that challenge to become a full-time veterinarian here at the Academy of Sciences Steinhart Aquarium, and then have been working here for the last 2 years full-time. And it's been quite a great experience.
For the listeners who have never been to the Steinhart Aquarium in San Francisco, it is spectacular. I had the pleasure of being there a couple of weeks ago, and Dr. Dunker gave myself and a few of my other classmates and my sister a tour around the facility and kind of behind the scenes. And that's what I'm really hoping that you can tell some of the people about today, because it was absolutely amazing. Now, Freeland, how many different species of animals do you have there at the aquarium? Because it's not just aquatic animals. You also have land animals.
That's correct. We have, we focus on biodiversity here, where we try to give the visitor a glimpse of all the different types of animal species, both aquatic and land animals that inhabit our Earth. And we basically have 900 different species here at the Academy, with total individuals of 34,000. That's a large amount. 25,000 of that 34,000 are invertebrates. So we do have a very large collection of coral, anemones, sea stars, all the aquatic invertebrates, as well as a very large collection of insects in our rainforest exhibit, majority actually being our leafcutter ants. And then we do have 8,000 vertebrate species, which are involved in our saltwater, freshwater, aquatic fish, aquatic species. We also have reptiles, amphibians, and we also have little birds, the passerine birds that inhabit the rainforests and it gives the visitor quite a glimpse of all the different species of animals. We do have some bats as well. So we cover all the different areas to share with the visitors.
And I think that's what makes this California Academy of Sciences Steinhart Aquarium so special, because you're not just seeing the animals that are under the water. It'd be, okay, these are the animals in the rainforest, but what would be above them? And you really have this whole ecosystem going on where it seems very natural. You know, the circle of life goes on right there in front of you.
That's correct. I mean, we basically, I think of as we talk about the bola or the rainforest exhibit, is an animal in itself, with all the individuals being parts of that animal. We have a large fish collection at the bottom, of course, in the Amazon tank. We have actually 4 different layers of the rainforest, exhibiting the forest floor, the mid-level, the canopy, and as you walk up, you see the various birds or passerine, finch and tanager species. You see free flight butterflies. Within those areas are exhibits with different reptiles and amphibians that inhabit these different layers of the rainforest. A large plant collection of large trees and tropical plants, all engulfed in this rainforest bola that's humidity and temperature controlled.
It was absolutely amazing as you were taking us through these exhibits to know the technical background of how much computers are involved in this, how many people are involved, the support staff. So you and your staff are just a very integral but a very important part. What other support staff do you have to make sure that all these various biodiverse ecosystems stay healthy?
And that's a good point. I mean, there's 3 departments that work very close together. There's the animal husbandry department, and there's the animal health department, and then there's also the engineers. Our engineers maintain the life support systems and keep the environment in a appropriate parameters so that the animals will do well in those parameters. And our interaction, all 3 of us, our 3 groups, work together to enable these exhibits to have environments so that our animal species can flourish.
What are some of the real challenges? For instance, one of the exhibits is this coral exhibit, and it's really a very tall exhibit. And you had mentioned that trying to get the light appropriate all the way down to the bottom was just really a challenge. Who kind of figures out how to do this, or is it a group effort?
It's definitely a group effort. We do, as you spoke, our coral reef is about 25 feet deep, and that's, I think, one of the few, if the only largest coral reef exhibit in the United States. And one of our challenges was getting light to penetrate down to the bottom so that the coral can grow at all different levels in a natural way. Most coral exhibits are much more shallow, 5-6 feet deep. So we, through, I guess you could say, trial and error, when we were at another facility, our holding facility, while we were moving, we stayed at, it was a facility off Howard Street, which was in downtown San Francisco. We actually built a tank that was 25 feet deep, but much, much smaller in size. And during those 4 years, we experimented with different lights, different light intensities, light penetrations, and kept very detailed records as to what would work best, so that when we opened this large exhibit, we had that data so that we could develop an exhibit that would work, basically. So we kind of spent 4 years of research working it all out so that we could display the exhibit as you see today.
They're all spectacular, and they're all so absolutely clean and pristine. You'd think that it's, somebody's much smaller tank, maybe in a home situation, instead of these millions of gallons of seawater that you have there, and some fresh water also. What are some of the very unique animals that you have at the Steinhart Aquarium that maybe we wouldn't see in some of the other aquariums?
Well, I would say a lot of the uniqueness that we see is we have a lot of unique different species of what we call cygnathids or seahorse species. We have the very beautiful leafy sea dragons and weedy sea dragons.
They don't look real. I remember seeing them.
Yeah, and
could you describe it?
Seahorses. Well, they actually look like a floating plant, or I guess you could say. I mean, they have the camouflage, and when they are basically moving amongst the plants and the weeds, you can't really tell what's what. I mean, they have little appendages that come off that look like leaves, and they're gorgeous. I mean, they're a gorgeous animal, which is a unique animal. We have a lot of our Amazonian fish, the Arapaima, arowana. We have.
Are those the carnivorous fish?
Yeah, those are the very large fish that can get up to 6 feet long, over 100 pounds. And again, we are fortunate enough to be successful with those animals. We've had them for quite a number of years. I mean, some of them we've had for up to 30 years. And they've grown to a large size and are quite impressive for the visitors to see. And alligator gar, that are in our southeastern lake and river system, and beautiful large, we've had them for quite a long time. So a lot of our unique species, I guess you could say sometimes, is the species that you don't see as big in other facilities, but you see them here.
So I know I started off this whole conversation by saying, how do you know if your seahorse is sick? Is one of the indications that your seahorses and your alligator gars are happy is because they are living so long and they're so big?
Well, I would say that as well. And we also, I think, them growing to the size that they grow and to the age length, I think, is a determination that they're in a healthy environment. You comment about, how do you tell if your seahorse is sick? Or any type of aquatic species, reptile or amphibian. It's very similar to pets. Basically, they have, to a person who knows their dog and cat, they know the behaviors of their dog and cat. If it's eating, if it's not eating, if it, is laying in your lap, or if it isolates itself from you or others. You find those changes in behavior as being something that may indicate a problem with the animal, and then you come to the veterinarian, and the veterinarian will examine that animal. And basically, the aquatic biologists, or the biologists that care for these animals, know their behaviors. And these animals, their eating patterns, their movement within the water column, whether they're swimming high in the water, low in the water. We notice them, quote, breathing hard. We use the term gilling, but you can see if their breathing rate is different. And so a lot of the similar observations that a pet owner would have with their animals, those types of observations are done with the biologist, and then notified us if there's any changes, and then the animal is examined.
Okay, so how do you examine this sick seahorse? I was fascinated to see all the equipment that you have in your health care facility there, your health clinic. And it was super impressive because it was basically everything that I have in my hospital.
Yeah, basically the animals are, again, they present challenges in regards to fish because they are an aquatic species that, needs to breathe in the water. So you are limited sometimes with the amount of time you can evaluate an animal. But as far as the diagnostics, is X-rays, ultrasound, taking blood samples to evaluate the health of an animal is all done with these as well. Some of the things that allow the animals to come out of the water a little longer is we can anesthetize them with a anesthesia that is placed in the water. The animal is then anesthetized and brought out of the water, and just like a dog or cat that is under anesthesia, where you have the anesthetic tube or the endotracheal tube that goes into the lungs, and the gas is then delivered and maintains the anesthesia, we actually can bring the fish out of the water, pass a tube that has the anesthetic water in it into its mouth, runs by its gills to give that animal the water and the oxygen that it needs to breathe. And you can actually have an animal or a fish out of the water for extended periods of time for diagnostics. You can have them out for 30 minutes up to maybe an hour, depending on what's needed. And as long as you keep those gills oxygenated with water, and with water with oxygen in it, and then you have the anesthetic in that water, you can maintain them out of the water for diagnostics.
Well, if you're finding that listening to Dr. Freeland Dunker right now, who is the head veterinarian at the California Academy of Sciences Steinhart Aquarium, is taking your breath away, well, hold that breath just a little bit longer, because we're going to break for a short commercial, and we'll be right back with the Pet Doctor on Pet Life Radio. Stay tuned.
Please have a seat in the waiting room. The doctor will be with you shortly, right after these messages.
At Petco, we really love pets. There isn't anything we won't do to make sure they're getting the best products and the best care. So when you ask us a question like,
so how do you feel about cat condos?
We can say from experience,
feels like home for her.
Enter the code Dr10, DOCTOR, the number 10, and get 10% off any order. No minimum at petco.com.
Hello? Danica, where have you been?
Oh, Grandma, I've been busy, racing, GoDaddy girl.
Oh, I built my own online store with GoDaddy.
Really? Let me see. Grandma'sAuction.com. Hey, are those Grandpa's golf clubs?
Grandma needs her bingo money.
Use promo code Dr10, DOCTOR, the number 10, and get a .com domain name for just $7.49 at GoDaddy.com. If you ask the question, what do I want? What do I need? I'll take affection. I really should mention I need time. I need love. I crave attention. This is the waiting by the door. With shaking tails and happy hearts. And running circles round the floor. That's always when the party starts. They are my friends. They are my children. They are the furry elders and kids. They are my family. They understand me. That's how I love my pets.
I Love My Pets, the new single by Mark Winter. Available on iTunes.
Greetings, human. What planet am I on?
Welcome to Pet Planet. Here's a copy of Pet Planet Magazine, Florida's most informative and fun pet resource magazine. It features heartwarming stories and informative articles from local and national pet experts.
Excellent.
Pet Planet Magazine offers Operation Planet Rescue, helping rescued pets find new homes. And it's available at 500 locations in South and Central Florida and 24/7 on the internet at petplanetmagazine.com. If you're out and about with your pet, you may be featured in Paparazzi, candid pictures of you and your pet. For up-to-date pet-friendly events, activities, and pet-related services and products, Pet Planet Magazine is your final destination.
I shall take this magazine home with me.
Back to your home planet?
No, to my condo in Boca.
Pet Planet Magazine. Check them out at www.petplanetmagazine.com or 352-394-8578. It's out of this world.
Thinking about buying a monkey? How about a ferret or a skunk? Then check out the show that will answer the burning questions. Where do you get them? What do you feed them? How do you take care of them? And most of all, what were you thinking? With exotic pet expert and author Bob Tart. Every week on demand from PetLifeRadio.com.
Let's talk pets.
Let's talk pets
On Pet Life Radio.
Pet Life Radio.
PetLifeRadio.com. Welcome back to the Pet Doctor on Pet Life Radio with Dr. Bernadine Cruz. The doctor is in, and we'll see you now.
Freeland, what you're telling us, I think, is just fascinating. I knew that you could do surgery, and I've never done it, on a fish. But it seems like with all of these animals, okay, now you know that it's sick, but what do you do? Because one of the things that's so important in companion animal medicine is preventative medicine. What do you do for your tanks, for these biodiverse areas, to keep these ecosystems healthy?
And I think that that's that's a very good point, is our preventative health program is something that's very, very important in maintaining the health of our collection. And part of our preventative health program, number one, is any animals that are acquired from other institutions are gone through a quarantine process. And during that time, the animals are held away from rest of the animals in the collection. They're monitored. Health is monitored, dietary intake. We evaluate them for baseline data, weights. If we can, we may get some baseline x-rays on them, blood work. During that time, diagnostics are done, fecal evaluations for any external or internal parasites. And once we're satisfied with any infectious diseases that have been taken care of, the animals can then go into the collection. So quarantine is one of the aspects of our preventive medicine program. Another is our dietary evaluation of the animals. We want to make sure that the animals are on a good, healthy diet. Part of, as you know, with dogs and cats, if they're on a good, healthy diet, they are long-lived and much healthier in general. So we evaluate on a yearly basis all the diets of these animals. And again, there's still a lot to be learned about them. So dietary evaluation is important.
The diversity of the foods that you must have to feed these animals must just want you to tear your hair out, because it seems like you'd have everything from the carnivore to the one that's going to have a large piece of fish to itty little bitty plankton. Where do you get the food from? How do you store it?
Well, again, that is, our dietary needs are quite diverse. We luckily, have the ability to freeze or to store various diets. We, number one, as far as our base diets, as far as fish, we get them from suppliers, and then the fish are then frozen and dealt out accordingly. As far as other items, krill, shrimp, all that, again, we have commercial suppliers that will give us this. Now, these are all the, quote, raw products. How we mix how many shrimp or fish or other type of dietary elements is kind of up to us to make a healthy and diet, but we do get all the raw materials from fish suppliers. We also do have some commercial diets. They're just like your fish.
So there is fish chow.
Sure. There's a Purina, or offshoot of Purina's Missouri, has various prepared diets for exotics, whether it be amphibians, reptiles, carnivores, omnivores. But again, these are all kind of base, and then we have to mix and match to fulfill the needs for all the other individual animals that we have.
You were talking about bringing in various animals and putting them into quarantine before they went out with the general population. Now, are all of these animals wild caught, or are you getting them from other facilities? Because it seems like people get very concerned with taking animals out of the wild. Are we going to be depleting the natural resources?
And that's correct. I mean, we majority, a lot of our animals are collected or are obtained from other institutions. We have other institutions have, people that have breeding successes. We'll put what we call animals on a surplus list, and then we can mix and match and bring in animals from other institutions. There are times, though, that we do collect from the wild, but we do adhere to a very sustainable collection policy. As example, with coral, we collect just the fragments of the coral, not the whole animal. And then through our expertise of propagation of these corals, we then can disperse these animals to other aquarium and zoos to reduce further collections. And that's done same with obtaining any other vertebrate animals. We will bring animals in from the wild that have not been normally displayed in zoos and aquariums, but through our expertise, we develop husbandry and breeding techniques to then share with other zoos and aquariums, again, so that further collection is reduced.
Talking about some of the animals that you're displaying that most people have not seen on exhibit, it seems like that would be a real challenge for a veterinarian such as yourself going, is this healthy? Is this sick? What are the normal parameters? I have a dog or a cat come in and I draw some blood, send it to the lab, and they know what liver values are supposed to be and kidneys are supposed to be. How do you know what these values are supposed to be?
Well, again, we learn by obtaining data, and that's kind of one of the biggest things that helps us with treating exotics is data collection and sharing that data with other institutions. So actually what we have is we actually have in our organization, the American Zoological and Aquarium has a database to where all blood works that are collected or any weight measurements, length measurements, weight, length, blood work is all collected. We feed into that, and every 6 months we get that information back that everybody has collected to establish normals for our animal species. So the more we input into it, the more we get back, and then we develop the norms that are needed, like the norms for a dog and a cat.
What has been one of the most challenging animals for you to ever treat?
Boy, that's a tough one. As far as the aquarium, I think sometimes the most challenging are the animals that have very, I guess you could say, very limited parameters. That they, are very sensitive, and certain water temperature, water pH environments that they have, and so therefore to be able to take them out of those environments to take care of them, you have to weigh the pros and cons of doing that. So those are my challenges, and I guess also one of the challenges, people ask this a lot, and with my experience both with zoos and aquariums, is the most difficult animals for me to treat as far as land animals, and I would say aquatic as well, is the very, very small ones and the very, very big ones. So when I deal with fish or lizards, amphibians, frogs that may be, a half an inch in size and maybe weigh a gram or two, up to the size of an elephant or a rhino that is, weighs in tons. It's the size of equipment that I'm able to use, X-ray equipment, ultrasound. As far as all my diagnostic abilities are very, very tough when I don't have the right sizes. It's usually your mid-sized animals, your 20, 30 pound up to 100 pounds, again, like your dogs and cats and your large breed dogs. We have the equipment to do the diagnostics. When we have these two extremes, our diagnostics become very, very challenging.
Taking an X-ray of an elephant's chest would be rather hard, yes. Try to get through that.
Exactly right. That's exactly right. People ask, does a large animal like that have pneumonia? Is what treatment that we're giving effective. And a lot of times we can't use, as an example, x-rays on an elephant to determine resolution of a respiratory infection. We have to go with other parameters, the animal's behavior, blood work, things like that. But that x-ray sometimes can be very beneficial if you're capable of taking it.
What is then maybe the most memorable animal that you've ever worked with?
Well, I guess I have quite a lot. I would say one of my that I felt that I've benefited the animal and the animal species was a successful treatment of human tuberculosis in an elephant. We had an elephant at the zoo that had become positive for tuberculosis, and we were able to...
Is that something you normally test for? How did you realize it was sick?
No, it was something where the animal, it was again through that elephants have the potential for tuberculosis, and during our routine screening, even though the animal was asymptomatic, we had found out that it was positive. And so we had to successfully treat that, which we ended up at a unique scenario. The animal would not take the oral meds that were needed to treat the disease effectively, so we actually had to treat this animal rectally with the medication that we needed via suppositories. So the animal was treated pretty much every day for over a year.
Who was a lucky person that got to do that? Was that your job?
Well, that was unfortunately or fortunately my job. And that meaning I had to basically clean out that animal each day and administer the suppository. And
you got to know that elephant really closely.
That is very true. And I did share my skill with as many people as I could. So there were numbers of people that could administer, as many people as I could get could administer that med. But that turned out to be a successful route of administration, and that treatment modality has been shared with other zoos and aquariums and has benefited animals, other elephants with the same disease process, or even other, so it's been great.
A veterinary proctologist. Freeland, I'm impressed. Yes.
Yeah. So as far as the aquarium, I guess you could just say my memorable experiences are just the challenges that I've dealt with right now with the diversity of the size. Like you talk about the seahorses, seahorses that I had a little seahorse that during shipment over to us had damaged its snout and was unable to eat. And so during its convalescence, we actually had to tube feed that little seahorse for up to a month before his little jaws repaired properly that he could eat on his own. And so those things give me pleasure, to be able to help them out and to bring them back to health.
And how big was that seahorse?
He weighed, I think, 10 grams.
And that is teeny.
Yeah, and that's not much. He basically was this, the size of your middle finger, from head to toe, or head to tail, I guess you could say.
And I've had to try to tube feed cats and dogs, and believe me, it's not easy. So you doing that is spectacular. With all the challenges that you're facing, one of the challenges right now that has faced the world, in particular the Gulf states for our own United States, has been that BP oil tragedy. With your background now in aquatic medicine, how do you see this is going to have an effect on our oceanic ecosystem?
Well, as you know, it does affect quite a range. Both our, the oil spill will have a detrimental effect on both our vertebrate and invertebrate species. We have all our invertebrates that can't leave or move out of the way when the oil comes and will be adversely affected, whether it be oysters or clams, snails, crabs, those type of things, animals, or even our plant species, will be adversely affected. Then there's the vertebrate species, our birds, marine mammals, the sea turtles, all these animals. It's quite a blanket that'll be affected, and all the plant and animal species interact. There's such a fine-tuned interaction between all those animals, which again, I don't mean to go back, but it just represents, again, like our diversity animal exhibit of the BOLA, where, we have birds, butterflies, fish, plants, and they all have to work together well to make a healthy environment for all of them. And this is the same again, our BOLA on much a mini scale. But again, if any of these species get out of whack or detrimentally affected, they will affect each other adversely. So it has a great concern.
Well, I appreciate you chatting with us today. If people want to learn more and can't go to the California Academy of Sciences Steinhart Aquarium, where can they learn more about this just awesome facility?
Well, we do have the California Academy of Sciences has a website, calacademy.org, and the visitor can browse through that, and there's quite a lot of information that they can obtain. There's individual profiles of all the aquatic, the biologists, the members of the animal health department, the engineers. And
I did see a picture of you and your staff, and if I remember correctly, you're all kind of wading in water, and that water happens to be where your alligators normally are housed. Where was the alligator?
Well, actually, that was our Amazonian tank, and so we all...
But you have nasty fish in there, too.
Not at that point. What it was that when the facility was built, we just had filled it up, and I guess we were at that point, testing the water parameters. Make sure it was healthy for the rest of our animals to live. See. So at that point, it was inhabited. We were the first inhabitants of that tank.
And Dr. Dunker, I have one more question for you. Do you have an aquarium at home?
Actually, I don't.
Busman's holiday. That's why you go to work, so you can have it there.
I know. We have plenty of others. We have, 2 dogs, 2 cats, turtles, tortoises, tarantulas, land animals. The water, as far as aquariums, I deal with it enough at work.
Well, Dr. Freeland Dunker, I totally appreciate you being with us today. You just have the job that all little veterinarians want to grow up and have. So congratulations. It's a marvelous facility. And if you're ever in San Francisco, great place to visit. Cost is well worth the price of admission. So thank you very much. You've been listening to Dr. Bernadine Cruz and Dr. Freeland Dunker. This is The Pet Doctor on Pet Life Radio. Please tune in again next week when we'll have more information to try and make you the best pet owner you can be. Thanks for listening.
Pets can be a wonderful addition to your life. Keeping them healthy and happy is important. Pet Life Radio presents The Pet Doctor with veterinary media consultant and veterinarian Dr. Bernadine Cruz. Whether you have a dog, cat, reptile, or rabbit, you'll find answers for your pets straight from the vets. The Pet Doctor, on demand every week, only on PetLifeRadio.com.